Ain't nobody see me out there like that. They don't have none of that. And then now what's even sadder is these young guys.
Yeah.
Now in your youth, you're supposed to want something. You're supposed to want a car if you can't drive. They want to stand right there and get on the P6. Now I'm from the country. And the first thing you do when you get 16 is you get that driver's license. You might can't read, but you'll figure it out that day. You coming out of there with that license. And up here in this inner city, the dreams have just died. These guys don't want nothing. They just stand there looking crazy and got the nerve to have 3 kids. But what? It's sad. We got to stop. And we got to recognize that we are so far off course. We got to go back. We got to go back. We got to go back to the basics. When people say, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. And what happens is when you do that, it teaches respect for an older generation. Now we don't even care now about the old people. You be on the bus, these kids be cussing like they sailors. The old people sitting right there. You think they get up and give them a seat? No. They paid my money, I paid my money like they paid that. I mean, just disrespectful. And it's disrespectful because we allow that to go on in our neighborhood. Nobody challenges anybody's behavior. It's just gotten way out of hand. And I'm going to say this to us women. It used to be that women grew up to have a man. They grew up wanting to be married. They wanted to be married. If they couldn't get a man, they wanted to. We done got so crazy that we stand and say, you know, I don't need no man. I got everything. Well, I ain't on the car to give me those feelings. Okay. I ain't on the house to do that. It's just some things that can't be exchanged with inanimate objects. And so what we've done is we've replaced the principles that he laid down in the beginning. If he felt like that, he wouldn't have made Eve. He'd have just left Adam there. But when I read my Bible, it says it's not good that Adam be alone. So now we done adapted another culture, and now it's got us 50-year-old women desperate, thirsty. Take anything, as long as we wear a pair of pants. You got to feed it, clothes. Who wants another baby? If you come in here, I want you to be able to stand up, and if we do some things together, fine. But I don't want another child. I got 5 of them. And so what we're doing is we're taking whatever we can get. We're taking whoever we can get. And then wondering, well, why he don't come home at night? Why he don't go to work? One thing I can say to you, and I always say this, I have not ever in 8 years had to wake Kanad up to go to work now, one day. If anything, he have to call me back and say, make sure you get the kids ready. But I've never had to do that because he does it on his own. Now, if you talking about wanting a partnership with somebody, some things you shouldn't have to do. I shouldn't have to be like, hey, you gonna get a job today? Then I got to worry about your feelings. Don't worry about it. We want to make it something. No, we're not going to make it somehow. I want to go out to eat, and we're not doing that. Something is wrong here. And as long as we just keep going and going and going, we're going to find ourselves in some worse shape than we're in, and we're in bad shape. These kids don't know how to read. How in the world you go through 12 years of school and you cannot read? There's nothing that you can do in the world that doesn't require some kind of reading. You may not be a speed reader, but you ought to be able to see the, go, and. You talk to some brothers and you know they couldn't put a good sentence together. And it's sad. And then when I grew up, it was important that girls made good grades. That's where we got our pride from. These are the dumbest women walking around here that I've ever seen in my life. Couldn't read the back of a bag. That was embarrassing when we was growing up. The guys always been kind of slow. But the girls, we had to make sure, you know, we had our little notebooks together. We got to go back. Because if we keep going, the guy on the radio said we had it for self-destruction. And I'm mighty afraid we already didn't hit self-destruction. Now we just in chaos. And so we have to go back to the basics. And then once we go back to the basics and we get Jesus, then we need to learn how to move forward and go to the next level. The next level would be praying, doing those things like that. But when we don't have the basics, it's hard for us to even get to another level. I'm just about ready to close, but this right here is for the Southeast people. Now, I know all y'all know about a missing person report. And when you can't find somebody, you call 911, right? And at 911, they're going to put out an A.P.B. Does anybody know what that is? All points of books. And that means we're looking for you everywhere. Some of us as Christians need to put out an A.P.B. for Jesus Christ.
I know that.
We need to look everywhere that we can to find him. When they come to your house, they'll sit you down and they'll ask you a few questions because they need some information to go find your missing person. The first thing they say is, when did you last see them? I'm asking you this morning, when did you last see Jesus? Well, I saw him this morning when I was able to look out my window and open my eyes. I saw him this morning when I didn't have to get some help to get out of the bed, but I was able to get out on my own. I saw him when I was able to look over there, my husband was where he was supposed to be. I saw him when my children were up running around and I didn't have to rush any of them to the hospital. Then if that wasn't enough, when I opened the refrigerator, I saw him again because there was something in there for me to eat. When I got ready to come here, I opened the closet door and I saw him again because there was something in there for me to wear. Don't you know the things that we just take for granted? Is somebody sitting somewhere wishing they had? The things that we complain about? Second thing they'll ask you is, please describe what you look like. You can tell them he was dark, like me. You know, we'd have been fooled for a long, long time. Now, I don't know about you, but I have some friends that are white. And if they go to the beach and they stay out there for a good period of time, they no longer look white. They start getting tan and start looking like me. Now, if you know the climate of that time, they didn't have cars, they didn't have air-conditioned building. It was always the sun. It's not possible that that brother could look like we represented him on some of these pictures. Revelation clears it up for us. It said he had feet like brass that were refined in the fire. And you can tell him he has eyes of fire because Revelation says his eyes were like flaming fire. You can tell him he carries a sword at all times because the Bible says out of his mouth comes a sharp, two-edged sword, cutting sin from the left and from the right. He even has an afro. You don't believe it? It said he has hair like lamb's wool. Last time I checked, looks like an afro. It says the hairs of his head are white, like white wool, like snow. If you need to check that out, you go to the first chapter of Revelation, and it gives you a physical description of who he is. It even says his voice has a sound like rushing water. And it says his face shines just like the sun. The next question they'll ask you, they'll say, are there any recognizable marks that if we should find a body, we can recognize that that's him? Sure he does. He has a tattoo. Most people don't know this. But if you look at Revelations, it says written up on his thigh is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So that debunks some of that myth right there. Then, if that doesn't tell it, he got nail prints that's in his hands. He has stripes on his back. That any time I get sick, I can just remember and reflect and know that he's given me my healing. He has crown prints that are on his brow from where they laid the crown of thorns. He has a handprint on his face from where those soldiers slapped him repeatedly. He has 2 holes in his side where, thank God, the blood and water came streaming down. Yes, he has plenty of scars that you can recognize him by. Where's the likely place that he would go? Now, we all want to think he would be up at the big church over across town, and, you know, he would be over here at Jones Baptist with thousands of people. I think you might want to check his shelter. I think you might want to check the liquor house. I think that even though some of y'all scared, you might even want to check the crack house. You might want to check down by the water because he was able to minister to a woman at the well. You might want to check that he's gone fishing because you remember he's a fisher of men. You might want to check and see if he's eating because he will create a meal. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that the places that we think that he normally is, that our mind says, that's not where he is. Matter of fact, I'm scared that he's going to come back and we won't even know he's back. Because we're too busy looking for him to be in this place and that place. But he says, lo, I'm with you. Those places. And then he always tells us, remember those less fortunate. If you look at his message, where we thinking he's coming, he's not coming that way. He's coming in the back door. All of us standing at the front door. And he's going to be come in, gone, and we won't even know. What was his trade? What kind of work did he do? Well, I've known him to be a surgeon. That doesn't